welcome to Anatomical Gangster. I am your host, Sue Hitzman, and today I am thrilled and honored to welcome a powerhouse in wellness and the fitness industry, an entrepreneur, an educator, a visionary, Helaine Knapp. She's known for her dynamic, redefining movement and fitness concepts, and she's inspired countless people to embrace a healthier, more vibrant life. But here is the kicker. She's not just a visionary entrepreneur, she's also a newly minted author. Her latest book dives deep into the realities and possibilities of wellness in our modern world and also what it is to be a female entrepreneur. The book is called Making Waves, and I think that's certainly what she does. She's a coach, she is a brilliant businesswoman, and I love that she calls herself scrappy. There's nothing scrappy about my next guest, Helaine Knapp. She is tenacious, she's brilliant, and just one of the coolest gals I think I've met in recent years. And her story is fantastic. So if you are an entrepreneur, I hope that you love this conversation and share this with your friends. If you are new to the podcast, please subscribe below, share this with people, comment. I'd love to hear what you think about this conversation. And of course, if you are starting a startup, you are going to hear some really great pro tips in this conversation near the end that you might want to think about and maybe you're not doing just yet as an entrepreneur in 2025. So I hope that you guys enjoy this lovely conversation with the amazing Helaine Knapp. Helaine, thank you so much for coming on Anatomical Gangster and hanging out with me.
Thank you for having me.
Always lovely to see you. And I'm really excited to talk about this new pursuit and your book, but just because I'm sure some people might not know you, and hopefully from my introduction they do, but this new book that you have seems to culminate so many ideas and experiences that you have really championed over the years. So I definitely want to talk about just your history with CITYROW, but let's really start with where was the turning point? What is the driving force behind writing the book?
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to share a little bit more about the story. The book came from being bored during COVID. I'm going to be really honest with you. There were two factors that enabled me writing a book. The first was we had a really big PR piece in 2018 on the Today Show. And from that, we had hundreds of inquiries that range from buying a franchise to buying a rower to interviewing me to me getting book agent requests. And this one book agent like kept on emailing me like every 3 months thereafter. And so I had that in the back of my mind. And then a woman that worked for me during the pandemic is also an author and knew that I was a great storyteller and had witnessed a lot of things that went down at CityRow and said, you have to write a book. And those two factors, plus the fact that I was incredibly bored and was doing nothing in 2020, I started kind of dictating stories and working with a writing partner. Her name's Leanne Shear. She's fantastic. And that's kind of how the concept for the book was really initiated. And then it completely evolved into something wildly different than I originally imagined.
Got you. Well, and so let's kind of give a little bit of the backstory with CityRow. It became a real standout fitness brand under your leadership. So I just want you to maybe just share some of the defining moments that kind of led you to take that leap into this entrepreneurial lifestyle and create something that was so innovative because CityRow was really the first of its kind.
Absolutely. And it came from a personal injury and a need. So,
Brief
background
story.
is that I am actually not a fitness professional whatsoever. I built my career first in magazine publishing at Condé Nast, and then I did a handful of tech startups in the client services space in the sales world. And it was as a consumer of fitness that I fell in love with the industry. I loved the pay per class model. I loved the accountability. I loved going with friends. It was kind of this nice in between of going to the gym by yourself and getting a personal trainer. So I fell fast and hard. At the same time, I also really hurt myself.
Mm.
Without knowing it, I was really, really, really putting a lot of pressure on my lower back. And unfortunately, I ended up with 3 herniated discs at 24. So it was being sidelined from thinking that I was doing all of the right things in fitness to questioning if I thought that and I was wrong, there's something wrong with the equation. And
Yeah. It's a dirty little secret of fitness is that everybody who really goes all out in fitness is injured. It's true.
because people want to feel like they're an athlete. And the reality is, and you and I obviously connect on this, is that most people are sitting at a desk all day. And you probably need to do an hour of mobility before you try and lift the kettlebell. Right.
Yep.
But how much mobility are they willing to do without, their type A brains turning off? And so I'm definitely that consumer and found myself so sidelined, but also knew there was something really important here to introduce something to the market that was going to give people the like sexy, fun, fast paced, great instructor, amazing music. But if you started to actually peel back the actual mechanics of the workout, it could also be safe and smart,
Mhm.
which I think aren't inherently known as being sexy elements of fitness. But for me, that was. And I thought that there was a huge opportunity to bring something with those elements into market. Let's check the top boxes of like hot, sexy, cool, fun, great music. And let's start checking the boxes that people don't even know that they need. And that's where CityRow entered the market as, tapping an unsung hero of the gym, which is the rower, because it's total body and also low impact. And let's pair it with mobility. We'll call it core, right? We're rebranding things too.
Mhm.
And then it was also a lot of strength training work, which everybody needs. So we introduced that in 2014 to the market in New York City.
Yeah, and I mean, it really it became one of the biggest buzzes in New York City outside of spinning, when spinning became a thing. And it was, I loved teaching that class. And by the time City Row really became a thing, I was like into melt and trying to educate people into self-care. So not teaching classes, but I think that the groups, the people who really got into City Row, they became real evangelists of it. They became community members, and the whole philosophy and the style that you brought to it, I think, is just really, you know, that's world class. That is world class entrepreneurship.
Thank
Way to
you.
go.
Very
And
proud of it.
you're also, being a female entrepreneur, which I have had my bouts of, what on earth you have to deal with. And I know that, you talk a little bit about this in your new book, Making Waves. And I want you to share a little bit about like what is this book about? And in it, I saw that you really openly discuss the challenges of being a female entrepreneur in an industry filled with male egos. So how did you shape your approach to leadership and keep yourself from going completely mental with what is out there and what you have to deal with?
I think on some level it's helpful that we work in fitness, right? I remember going down and when our office was right above one of the studios and I could just like pop down for a 12:30 class and like I probably hit some of my best split times ever on the worst days. Like I remember hitting a 131 once and a 12:30 with this girl Lauren and like I was fired up. So, grateful to have always had an outlet where I could push myself really 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 hard without injuring myself. Thank you to the water rower. But yeah, it was a journey and it evolved. And I think that the person that I am today is very different than the person and the leader and the female founder that started the business in 2013 and the one that navigated the pandemic. I've continued to grow at every point. So I think the one throughput is continuing to just like really be self-aware and take the moments to not just recognize what's happening in those like actual conversations and emails and difficult conversations, but also try and take myself as Helaine out of it and try and also look at it at perspectives of everybody else in the room. And that's been helpful at times when I feel like maybe someone's not treating me well or there's some kind of like, bias. And I'm just like, well, hold on a second. Is this that they don't like me or they don't feel comfortable dealing with me because they're a 65-year-old man that's never been married, doesn't have any children, and so they just don't know what to do with me,
Yeah.
right? And they're just more comfortable dealing with, you know, old men in suits. Okay, well, how can I win this situation? Do I have an ego? No, not necessarily in this room. And so let me bring a white guy in a blazer who's over 50 to get the deal done. And so I think it's been a combination of having my eye on the larger prize has kind of helped me through some of the smaller, shorter battles along the way, but it hasn't been easy. It's real out there. Women only see 2.5% of venture funding. I think maybe it's even gone down. That number's gone down somehow, right? It's hard out there.
It definitely is. I think you have to be tenacious. as a female. And I think if you have passion and purpose and something's really driving you, those are really the successful female entrepreneurs that I see are people who just they're going to do it no matter what. They're going to push it. And now you're taking on more of a speaker and really getting out there as a coach, a speaker. What is it with your new book with Making Waves that you're hoping people are going to get out of it?
There's a couple of pieces to it. On the one hand, I want to really normalize what happens behind the scenes. And I think that there's a lot of like romance that comes through in stories of entrepreneurship. You read stories like Shoe Dog or Ride of a Lifetime, and you hear about these unbelievable stories. And yeah, they had some mishaps here and there, but like, it's still a multi-million dollar, billion dollar business. You listen to How I Built This, and they're amazing stories. They kind of tap into this element of the American dream, right? But it's no longer I opened a candy store and it worked, and it's no, I sold a business for 9 figures. And so I think that there is like this like obsession with it, which also has led to, I think, an outbalanced storytelling around what happens in the startup world. And most startups fail. Most startups don't even have like any kind of acquisition or soft landing. And so I wanted to tell a story. I thought I was telling a story in the middle of the build. And then the book ended up being a story of like, I was like, holy shit, this is actually like, this is the real, raw, gritty, hard, painful stuff that happens. And I'm crying a lot. And I know that other people are too. And in the moment, I was brave enough to say, okay, if I speak up first, will other people say, yeah, me too? And so I wanted to kind of throw my first hat in the ring of being like, this is fucking hard. I cry all the time. I cry in board meetings when I am the only woman and 12 men. And how does that feel? Right. And imposter syndrome and all of it. And so I wanted to normalize that. And then I also wanted it to still be an inspiring story, even though on paper, CityRow was not a success. And I make sure to tell fucking everybody that
Mm. Tell
because
me
I want
more.
them to know.
Are you
I
saying
want
on a
people to know.
financial level because the tax returns were always at a negative, or what is it?
It means we raised millions and millions of dollars and we paid back zero of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big piece of the story because I think there's a lot, I run a company and I have never borrowed a dollar from anybody, which is why I'm a small millions of dollar company and I've never gotten to the point of being big. But talk a little bit about that opportunity to um, raise money and then not be able to pay it back or what, like where's the turning point? What is that about?
Once you jump on the venture highway, all of a sudden you're playing a very different game. It's not just about running a healthy P&L, which, you've run very successfully for many, many, many years too. So it's actually a very different business. When I started taking venture, it was okay, this is no longer a brick and mortar business that's going to bring in more revenue than it spends on a monthly basis, right? That's a healthy P&L, no matter where you cut it, right? This is no, we're going to turbocharge growth. And we're going to go try and build this thing up to be so big and have so much power and so much connection and so many clients that someone's going to want to include it in their ecosystem of something much bigger,
And
right?
that was what you had in your mind. Like,
Of
I
course.
want to super grow this thing. That was your mind. I want to super grow it. And that was a driving force to then raising capital.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
first vision of that was we're going to be the next Soul Cycle. That was it in the beginning. And that I always had a very good 18-month plan and like 6-year vision. You have to kind of have both the same time
Yeah.
as a founder. And so I always knew we were going to like stamp these things all over. I did not know that we'd end up franchising. And I did not know that about 2.5 years into the business, we'd make a very, very, very big bet on digital. And I'm glad we did both of those things. But when we
Mhm.
started to bet on technology and building in the at home fitness space, that put us on an even faster highway because then all of a sudden we're playing with Peloton, right? And then you're a tech company and you're a media company and you're a content company. And all of those companies require a lot of capital. And so once we were on that highway, it was like, okay, are we burning 100K a month? Is it 75K a month? Is it 500,000 a month? how much money are we spending to try and grow this thing as fast as we can before anybody else?
Mm. Wow. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a runaway train, the high potential to be an absolute runaway train. I mean, I think that that could really get away from somebody very quickly. And were there ever nights? So, I mean, like I hear you saying, like there are times where I was crying. Were there ever moments where you are like, we're headed in the wrong direction, or I want to get off this fucking train and stop me at the next station? I'm out of here. Did you ever just think that's it? I'm getting done with it. I can't do it.
It's funny. I'm a bit of a cockroach. And I say that with a lot of love for myself as a CEO, as a driver of the business. Like I'm an epic driver. Like I could always find a path forward. I could always come up with another idea to partner. I always found new distribution channels. Like I am a salesperson by nature, and so I always found a way to think about how we could try one more thing. I'm a really creative problem solver, and so I kept going until somebody sat me down and said there is no path forward. And it took like the woman that I respect the most, my favorite board member, sat me down and presented me a 30-page PowerPoint. That's what it took to stop the Helaine train. But it wasn't until I couldn't see the path forward that I ever thought about stopping.
Wow. It's got to just be such a turning point in your mind, too. It's sort of like when somebody who's playing one of those games and it's like, you can't win that game, step away from the game. Wow. So, Helene, tell me your your educational background, because somebody doesn't just get to the point where you are and have the mindset and the drive to say, I'm going to build this thing as big as anything can be.
Well, I was a psych major at the University of Michigan. So actually, yes, I think that my education has a lot less to do with it than the being a shy, chubby kid growing up and like probably being made fun of and like kind of always having like a chip on my shoulder to prove something. That's
Hmm.
probably what drives me more than anything. And
Gotcha.
I'm a little competitive. I like to win.
So even as a kid, like this is just part of your DNA. This is what you do always.
Absolutely. I think I didn't always know that I would start a company first by any means, but I think I'm very good at being self-aware. That's my number one superpower, and I've been aware of that ever since. Like my first internship, I was really good at being an intern, like to the point of annoying. To the point of like, I've done all of the work, give me something else. And they were like, do you want to like track invoices? And I was like, I will do anything. And so data point number one, I'm really good at working. Data point number two, everyone seems to really like me here. So I'm really good at people. I was able to navigate myself back the following year. Starting working in actual like post college world, I realized I was really good with clients and client services came really naturally to me. The second there was an opportunity for money on the table, I became really good at sales, really good at people, really good at navigating internal systems. And so when the idea came to me for CityRow, I was actually kind of surprised because I kind of already had in my mind that I'd be really good at business, but that maybe I'd be a good COO.
Hmm.
I had that in my mind at like 23, 24. I was like, I'm going places. I'm going places in this like business thing.
Yeah, it just that's what it sounds like to me. And I mean, even when I met you for the first time, I feel like it was at Ursa. That was the first time that we met. Even though I knew of you, I knew about City Row, but I don't think we were ever like in the same room together. And it was just like you're just a force, you know. And said this before we got on air. I said, Helene says she's scrappy in on your uh like your bio and stuff, you're scrappy. And I'm like, there's nothing scrappy about this gal. What is scrappy? So I want you to also
Happy.
talk about, you know, because when you run a company like this, you do have to get scrappy. You know,
Yeah.
my former CEO would always say that, you know, you got to get a little scrappy. You got to lean down and figure out what the company really needs to maintain the culture inside so that it works. And it I think that's a big message that maybe a lot of people don't think about is like, what is that origin? Like, how do you entrust parts of your business to the right people to help see your vision? Because you're not just an entrepreneur, you're a visionary. So, how'd you get from there to there?
A lot of mistakes, a lot of failures too. And sometimes I trusted the right people and sometimes I trusted the wrong people. And so that's how you learn about what it's like to be sued. So, you have to kind of cross these monumental learning moments and it I man, I learned so much during those years.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I have I don't like to think about regrets, but I talk about this a lot in the book. It's all about people and relationships, and the things that you deal with in your day-to-day life with relationships, they come out in business relationships, let me tell you. And I trusted really, really, really big, and I should have had some tighter guardrails and some better checks and balances for things. But I trusted people and I really liked them and I was friends with them, right? CEO, you really can't be friends with people that work for you. Yeah, you
Mm.
can collaborate with friends and like, yeah, you can hire people in like, high equal levels that you've worked with before that have proven to have complementary skill sets. But you got to also really hold those boundaries of accountability.
Yes, I love years ago, I learned the RACI School of Business: responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And where are you on that totem pole? And making sure that people know which role they're playing, because it is very daunting to be a business owner unless you have the right team. I think it can get very, um, like, again, you are suddenly hiring too many people, and really getting the right people to work for you. I think I've had years, especially when I was first starting, where technology and marketing was a real kind of more new idea. The online stuff, in the 2010, we weren't really even at that place. Instagram wasn't a thing, and people sort of claiming to know how to run your social media, how to do your marketing, and really you end up just spending a shit ton of money on nothing. I have had fraud, right? I've had, giving 25 grand to a marketing company who never put out a single ad,
Yeah.
and you just want to punch somebody right in the throat, but you just aren't going to do that. And I'm sure that as a business owner, you've seen this time and time again at the level you
Yeah.
played.
I think listen, we've worn the same hat for most of our tenure building together. And I've felt it too. Like, and I talk about this a lot. Like, there are so many times that I wanted to just like hand over a big responsibility to someone else because I didn't know how to do it. Like, honestly, like, I didn't wanna do fundraising. I hated fundraising, I thought it was super hard. The amount of people that I hired to do fundraising for me that brought in $0 were a colossal waste of time.
Wow.
Same thing with you on the marketing side of things. Like, I
Yeah.
hired tons of accountants and consultants that I thought, "Oh, well, these people know the thing that I don't know." At the end of the day, like, me figuring out how to hack my way through some Facebook ads and learn the data was gonna pay back 10x
Hmm.
on it. Or I send my, my co-founder and, chief branding officer to go and learn it. Right? Because they're the only people that actually care about your business. Like you at the end of the day are better at 99.9% of the things with support, with learning, with education. Right? I'm not saying do it on your own, but like you can't give away the hard shit. You got to do that on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And growing a brand is a thing. It really is the difference and the fine divide when you have a brand to function in the business or on the business. Which side are you on? And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, sometimes you get sucked into the minutia and you're just working in your business all the time and you never really get to do the on the business thing, which is really what's going to get you to grow. And I think that's probably one of the bigger obstacles for most people. So, on that note, what advice would you give to, I think, men or women, but I think maybe women who are trying to carve out their place in industries that are traditionally maybe dominated by men?
It's a tough one. I do think that it really depends on the industry and the people that are closely around you. I think I've worked with such amazing men over the years. Like I built CityRow on the backs of like I had 115 people on my cap table. 100 of them were men that believed in me and believed in CityRow. And so like I really do think that it's about like looking at the room and seeing who's there and like do you have someone that needs to be told the financials by a guy in a blazer or not? right? And so it really depends. Like if you're in like deep finance, tech, whatnot, like I don't I think that tech is actually pretty egalitarian. And from what I see, like a lot of businesses are starting to become pretty even until you get to a point of seniority. Right. And then it's like all of a sudden it flips to like, oh wait, there are no women CEOs in Fortune 500 companies. And I'm kind of like, do I want one? Maybe. Seems like a lot of work. um,
Yeah, it really is a fascinating concept because I think growing up in the 70s and thinking of Susan B. Anthony just pops in my head right now, that there was, women's rights and women were going to be equal. And so I remember seeing that as a young girl. And then in my mind going, by the time I am an adult, these will all be things of the past. And I will triumph as a female. And
yeah.
then you get to your adulthood, you're like, whatever happened to Susan B. Anthony? That whole like, where's the equal? That's bullshit. And I've seen that in the fitness industry too. I was teaching classes back to back with male teachers who were almost making twice as much as me. And I was like, I teach a great class. I want to raise. And one of my one of my bosses actually said to me once, if you were a gay man, you would be making the same amount of money. And I was like, okay, I quit. And I think to myself, in 2025, that wouldn't have held up at all. And that would have been a lawsuit over on that side. But back when we grew up, you just had to deal with it. You just sucked it up and you just did your best. And I think we are in a world where the opportunity to become an entrepreneur is, of course, always available for anybody who has it. But as you're a startup founder, and really, and then bringing this through again, fundraising, or raising money and raising capital. So I'm sure you've mentioned it, you have faced serious moments of doubt and adversity at some point. So give me a pivotal moment where you overcame a major setback and how it sort of gave you the philosophy that I think you really, that this is where you are. And I think, I don't even know how to say that. You said it's from when you were a kid, but do you have a major setback?
Oh, there are many. But one that's fun and early on is that we were building our second location. It was ground floor on the Upper East Side. It was a location that required a lot of renovation, and I signed the lease before I had the money to do the renovation. And we couldn't pay for the renovation with cash flows. We had to raise about half a million for it.
Wow.
So we were opening the location. I basically have like a huge line of credit with my contractor who happens to be an investor. And I'm like on the brink of fucking him over because I'm not going to be able to pay him the 400K we owe him. And we're also trying to quickly open the location because the second the location's open, in my mind, I'm like, we got money. We can start, even if it's a payment plan, like we can get something going. I'm always like thinking about how to get something like uniquely done like that. And we finally open in January of 2016. And it's a beautiful new studio. We botched the marketing because we never had to do marketing in our first location. It was just the perfect sweet spot of hitting a brand new product in the perfect location of Union Square. So
Mhm.
now the marketing, we totally flopped. Like we did not have full classes in the beginning. It was horrible. And then 5 weeks in, I got a call saying that there was some water that was coming down from the ceiling. And I was like, well, call the HVAC guy. Like something's probably going on. Turns out there was a huge freeze and the pipe burst in the building next door and it flooded the basement of the downstairs next to us. And we shared a floor. And so my
Uh,
brand new gym floor that cost me
uh,
$50,000 was a waterbed.
okay.
And all of a sudden, our studio was useless and we couldn't hold classes. And so overnight, I remember being incredibly calm. And I am very good in crisis and like getting things done. It was weeks of restoration and in learning about the insurance process and putting together documents and how much money we would have made, getting a new floor, the whole thing, right? And then, but there wasn't an option. I think that that's kind of where a lot of this comes from is that like doesn't matter what the obstacle was in front of us, like we had to overcome it. So there was no point in like sitting back and being like, woe is me or this is horrible. Yeah, there were terrible moments a couple years later where we had been told that we were going to get a $2 million investment from our franchise partner,
Mm.
and it just like kind of kept getting delayed, kept getting delayed. We were launching our digital product. We were behind about, 200K. They had written us personal checks to cover payroll. And then all of a sudden they were like, this still doesn't make sense for us. And I was like, what? Our credit cards were shut off. We were about a week away from not getting payroll. There
Wow.
was there was no option besides, like, trying to think about, "Okay, well, what else?" Right? We ended up getting, like, a crazy horrible bridge loan. That's when you hear the crazy stories about people doing insane things when they have
Yeah.
to. I had to strike an insane deal with our manufacturer to get another $1 million. Like, I had to do insane things for it. But when you're the captain, when you're at the helm, like, your job is to stay calm in the moments of uncertainty and try and find words and ways and communication styles to instill some level of confidence
Of
in
course.
times of turmoil. Like, that's the speech that I give for most of my keynotes is how to be the calm during the storm.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, I think that's also a big piece of being a great leader is that you're always focused on solutions rather than the problem. Because if you're focused on the problem, there your problem is, and that's not making it better, right?
I'm like, "Okay, you wanna keep telling me a story or you wanna work on how we're gonna work through this?" Like, I
Yeah.
have no time for your woe is me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big piece, I think, for anybody. So, what do you hope readers are going to take away from making waves? Is
I
there a
want
core message?
there's a huge core message around resiliency and knowing that you already have all the tools to succeed. And at the end of the day, and you and I have talked about this, like, there were many times that I wanted to pass the reins for big decisions or, like, pivotal jobs. And at the end of the day, like, most of the time there was no one better for the big moments and the big decisions and wearing the big hats than me, even if I didn't think that I could fill them. And I think that that's part of the difference between being a female is that we kind of walk around with a level of insecurity and imposter syndrome. And the second you can start to like recognize it, I'm not saying it's not going to be there, but recognize what it is and try and find a mirror, find someone, find a coach, find someone, a collaborator to be like, what do you think? Like, should I try and do this? Should I not? Like, what's the type of resource that I need here? And jump in. Do it on your own. I want people to kind of have that confidence to jump in, know the water's really cold and full of sea monsters, but jump in anyway. Just be real about it, and also like have some fun along the way. Like how to your point, like how lucky are we that we get the opportunity to do these things?
No,
So
I mean, I can't even believe that my career is to help people mitigate chronic pain. And I'm just good at that. And I've been able to transform lives. And that's just an honor and a gift. And, that's kind of what keeps me going. And especially in the times where you're like, why is this so difficult? Or like, why hasn't this gotten done? Or are we still having this conversation? Right. So getting the team members to really do their job, I think also is a big leadership skill that you can have a business degree, but it really just comes down to practice. You just got to be in it. Now, you started this whole thing in 2014, you guys came out, is that right? So now here we are a decade later. The
yeah,
world is different. We have scrolling problems. People are scrolling, and our attention is in a all-time deficit. Our ability to communicate and even touch people after COVID don't even touch one another. What's different that you see if there was a young entrepreneur who's like you only in 2025 and wants to start up their business and wants the super growth of their brand to come out? What's the first thing that you would tell them to think about?
become an expert in AI prompts.
Tell me more.
I'm obsessed with it. I use it multiple times a day. I think what ChatGPT, I'm a personal fan of Claude, are offering entrepreneurs is effectively a team of people at no cost.
It's unbelievable. I use Copilot, I call him Coco, and I just love him because it doesn't matter what script, what message, what intro to the podcast I want to create. I have got a free assistant who challenges me. And what I find fascinating about AI is I actually asked it the other day. I was like, so do you remember me like every time I talk to you, or is it a new conversation? And he goes, oh, no, I do. I remember our conversations on this and that. And he kind of threw out some things. And he said something very nice about me. But then I said, well, seeing that you know me so well, what should I like? What's something that I could do to, help myself being in skin, being human? And he's like, what a lovely question. And he said, I think you should lean into stillness a little bit more. And I thought, damn, that is the best answer. This AI knows me. And how incredible an opportunity it is for entrepreneurs to be able to use it. Are you worried about AI for any reason?
No.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing opportunity. My friend, actually have it right here. My other dear friend, big shout out to Mark Beckman. Have you seen this book? This is Some Future Day. And it's all based on AI and how AI is going to change everything. And I think you're right. I think it's a huge piece that if you're not using AI, you're already behind.
Wish I had had this for my build, and I think it's such an amazing tool. I'm already thinking about what how to leverage it for business ideas left and right. I mean, it basically truncates the MVP process into a couple of hours.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think to myself, if I ever had to write a business plan, I could do that in 8 minutes with with ChatGPT. I mean, it really is incredible. And it is a huge transformation for people. But the thing I worry about with AI is just that a lot of the things you're watching it's not real. They're not real. They're not real people. They're not saying the things that you believe that they're saying. And that's daunting because there is a lot of fabricated stuff, a lot of people who are posting on, the only way to do this is that. And you're like, God, that like there's everything wrong about the first sentence that you said. Like it's not even true. So, and that has to do with medicine and hormones and a million and one other things. So I totally get it. All right. So what else? Second thing. So you're gonna get intimate with AI. Give me three things. What's the second one?
That I'm gonna do, or
That
if I
that
were
that, that
younger.
you you've got a young woman who's saying, I have this brand and I, have this new best thing and I want to put it out there. We're gonna use AI. And what's another thing to do?
Get a coach and surround yourself with people that are going to challenge you, and not just AI. Great to use Claude, but surround yourself with either an advisory board, coaches, like a great board of advisors, people that you can bounce ideas off of a mirror around, that are actually going to help lift you up. Because especially as I was a young 25-year-old founder, and even as I sit here now, over a decade later, like there are things that I am not an expert in. And while AI is fantastic for learning some things, like there are some things that you can really only glean from actual experience. And so if you don't have the experience, bring the right people around the table. That's ultimately going to make you much, much, much stronger. And then you have a bench. I was talking about having a deep bench of people, and whether they're consultants or coaches or advisors or friends, like make sure that they're around the table and that you can call them for something small, engage them for something large. Like make sure you got the people around the table that you are like actually paying attention to. And the last is just like obsessively listen to your customers. Obsessively listen.
Mm. Yeah, that's a beautiful one. And so how would somebody, um, if they, let's say again, they have a startup, they have $0 to invest, and they want to be in a place where they have a board of advisors, but most people, you got to pay to play. How are you gonna get around that when you have an idea, a great startup, and you know 20 some odd years old. I've got this great thing. I need a board of advisors. How do you do that without people saying you're going to have to pay me to do it?
You got to go inspire them, right? Go find the people that are going to work for a little bit of equity, or they're going to work on a spiff if something works out, right? I'm not saying this is everyone, but there are people that will work for fractional points of equity, right? If you don't have any cash, offer them equity. If they say no, then maybe they won't do it. Say, hey, listen, what if I pay you quarter of a point now? And then, hey, look, if you can help me execute this business plan, by this point, we should have some money. And then I'll pay you X dollars, right? People will work on contingency based
Hmm.
on performance if they really believe in it, right? So you're going to hire a digital marketer and they're like, hey, I'm going to make you X, Y, and Z dollars over X period of time. You're like, fantastic. I can't pay you for the first 2 months, but if you hit this, I'll give you an extra 20%, right? There's always a deal to be made with somebody.
That's a big thing, right? I think that's it is, and I can't remember who just said it to me recently, but the basic words he said was, "If it's for sale, it's negotiable." And I was like, "I love that." He's like, "Even if you go to Walmart, you could probably negotiate $5 off if something's not quite right with the thing that you want. Try it." And I was like, "Oh, I don't shop at Walmart, but okay, I will totally do this. This would be cool." All right, so what about, if you could give one, maybe a piece of a lesson or some piece of advice to your younger self before you started City Row, what would it be?
Oh man. I would tell her I'm pretty bold in general. I would have probably told myself to be even bolder. I
Mhm.
think that I definitely am someone that struggled with a bit of imposter syndrome. Like I kind of couldn't picture myself as the CEO of a fitness company until like the last couple of years, which is insane. Because we did some really, really, really amazing things. And so I would have coached myself to embody the role and step into it earlier and to not be afraid because I was qualified.
Beautiful. And coaching, that's where your mind is at now. You've gone from entrepreneur and mega business owner and now coaching and what tell me about where you are today and what you want to achieve in this next, let's say, decade.
Ooh, decades, so I can't get
All
that
right,
far.
let's go the
Um,
next 10
uh,
months.
yeah, yeah. So as I, like, recover from the 10-year build and, like, there is, like, real moments of needing to, like, take the space and process, like, that whole journey, where I find myself as, like, really wanting to reach back and be the person that I wish I had, around the rim, around the table, someone that can provide real concrete business advice and coaching while also coaching the person because it really is the person that's going to execute that often ends up being the barrier to most companies' growth. And so I'm having a lot of fun there and also doing a good amount of speaking, whether it's for sales teams, large organizations, inspiring them, teaching leaders how to be that calm during a storm, no matter how big or small or pieces of uncertainty. There's uncertainty everywhere these days.
Of course.
And if you can kind of be the calm and help other people, whether it's on your team or within your company, not live in a constant state of fight or flight, like you're giving them a gift all day long. So that's
Beautiful.
where I'm having a lot of fun these days.
And with speaking, how do you get speaking gigs? Are you out there with an agent trying to find things? Are you shopping the book? Do you do those things to yourself? Do you use AI?
And with the book, like it's kind of like a natural progression into speaking. So I worked with a keynote coach. We developed kind of what my message was going to be. Like, yes, I have an agent and a manager that helps like going and getting placements in the right places for the stage that I'm at. And then honestly, it's also about putting yourself out there and being like, hey, this is what I do now. And then you'd be surprised what comes back for you.
Love that. So I ask everybody the same question at the end of Anatomical Gangster. So I'm going to put it out to you. And this is just like a world question here. If you could tell somebody something that you've learned, a real life lesson that transformed how you navigated relationships, life, anything. And if they heard the words, it might very well get them out of a hole and very much change their life. What would it be?
Get your boundaries right.
Beautiful. It's a big one, right? It takes
It was.
takes losing a boundary to realize that you need them. I think that that's a great message, right?
Yes. Do the work. Do the work. These
And Elaine,
boundaries.
if people want to find you, they want to learn more about your speaking gigs, how are they going to find you?
At Helaine Knapp on Instagram, HelaineKnapp.com. Making Waves is the book, available on Amazon. And yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
I
Hit me.
love it. Well, I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to chat with you because I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are listening to this who are young entrepreneurs who want to get into the fitness realm, who want to get into creating something and putting something fantastic out there. And, again, you're a trailblazer, you're an innovator, and just always lovely to see you. And I just so appreciate you being on Anatomical Gangster. I hope all of you guys listening to this enjoyed this conversation. If you are trying to create a new business, make sure that you leave a comment below. I hope that you check Aline out and stay curious, stay happy, and we'll see you on the next show. Be gangster.